Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I am Mr. Warren Hayes, and it's a special edition, of course. Night 2 of Wrestle Kingdom just wrapped up a few minutes ago. And boy, did it ever wrap up. And this is what we're going to talk about. We are going to talk about Wrestle Kingdom, second night, Wrestle Kingdom 14, that we just had the pleasure of looking at, staring at, enjoying, lovingly embracing with our presence and overall love of professional wrestling. And when I say we, of course, I'm saying that not like to be facetious and say, oh, I've got a team of people working for me. No, that's not how it works. I'm saying we because I am proudly accompanied today by my friend, my colleague, my pal, JPQ of the No Particular Angle podcast, who's bearing with me this morning. Hello, John. How are you?
Warren, I am happy to be here. I'm happy to grace the presence of the great Mr. Warren Hayes on a Sunday morning at 5:45. This may not be the earliest we've talked, but it is the most exciting time of year. New Japan Pro Wrestling, Wrestle Kingdom Night 2, two great nights of wrestling here. I thank you for allowing me to come on and share this breakdown with you, sir.
Oh, of course. I'm really happy that you're here, John. That's absolutely that's absolutely fantastic. I'm really glad that you're here. And like you said, we're doing it live here on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes this morning. And I might not be as exuberant and loud as usual. I just don't want my neighbors popping in and saying, what the hell is going on? What are you doing screaming so loud before 6 o'clock on a Sunday morning? But
yeah, I mean,
you know the feeling, right?
I do indeed. It's in the back of your brain just to make sure that you be a polite neighbor.
So it's just something that you just want to be careful of, because I want to keep doing this without having to apologize or having to buy like fruit baskets every other week. Just to apologize and stuff like that. Hey, but you know what? I am really glad you're here. I'm glad everyone is here. And because we do have people joining us live here on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes this morning. We have Darren Kirby, who's here. MaduBT is here as well. Darren, like I said, Darren is here. Carlos is here as well. Eric Arsenal, Jared Simmons. Hello, everyone. And welcome to the show. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to this moment that we're going to spend together this morning to talk about Wrestle Kingdom, the follow-up, the final event. 2 nights of Wrestle Kingdom. Turns out that they didn't. It would appear that they did not successfully fill out the Tokyo Dome tonight, John. 30,000 seated this evening, but I mean, still overall, that means they had an evening of 70,000 people who had decided to sit in the Tokyo Dome. Just off the top of my head, since we're talking, I don't consider this a failure. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think 30,000 to, I'm trying to remember what last year's number was. I think it was in the low 30s, like 33, 34. So to be able to go sell out the night before, and when you look at the card from last night, with the intrigue on who could win coming out of the double gold dash, and then the tag team titles, there was a lot of excitement around night 1. Night 2, same thing. A lot of marquee matches, a lot of great things that happen tonight. But being there and kind of going through the Wrestle Kingdom weekend, there's a lot of shows. All Japan Pro Wrestling, Noah, Stardom, hashtag watch Stardom, all these different shows. DDT.
I was waiting for that.
Let's get it in early and often. But it is one of those things where it's, they run it a lot like they do in the States, where there's a lot of wrestling, a lot of shows being put on in the Tokyo area in celebration of January 4th and the holiday and everything like that. So, maybe a little fatigue set in, but,
Mm-hmm.
3/4 of the Tokyo Dome on night two, that's nothing to scoff at because it wasn't too long ago, Warren, and you know this, that they were having trouble getting, 15 to 20,000 people to show up.
Yep.
So I'll take this as a W.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And you're going to get all sorts of takes on the internet. There's going to be all sorts of takes that are going to happen here. If you and I mean you figuratively speaking, like this blanket statement, not necessarily you, John, but I know you probably watched New Japan in the 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a brilliant moment for the company. It was a very bleak moment in the company's history, both creatively and financially. And the uptick that New Japan started at the onset of the decade, let's say in 2009, when they really decided to abandon Enochiism and really bank on their stars and guys like Tanahashi, like Nakamura version 2. It took some time to pay off, but I think we're still. It still has been rising since then because they have been doing a lot of things right. It's been good for their business. 70,000 people paid or not, 70,000 people heading out to see a wrestling show over 2 days. I think it's hard to swing it as anything else than a victory.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's one of those things where they took advantage of it being a weekend and the way the third and the fourth fell this year. I think they made all the right moves coming into the weekend, and to be able to, again, 3/4 the Tokyo Dome one night too after everything else that happened over the course of the weekend. Yeah, I think they did their jobs this time.
I think they done good, folks. If you're watching, they done real good, folks. If you're watching live right now and you feel up to it, you can leave me a super chat right here, and I will read your question, your statement, your comment live and on the air, unless it's something completely offensive and ridiculous, or something that attacks John personally. No, then I might actually sing that one. Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and start talking about the matches. The pre-show had the return of the 6-man Neverweight Championship tag titles, John, back from nowhere. I'm not going to break this one down really, but the LIJ team of Evil,
Yep.
Shingo Takagi, and Bushi defeated champions, the most violent players, Togi Makabe, Toru Yano, accompanied by Taguchi, who, like I said, one of the current champions, the Chaos team of Ishii, Yoshihashi, and Robbie Eagles, and the team of Suzuki-gun, composed of Taichi, El Desperado, and Kanemaru, and the team of Bullet Club, comprised of Fale Takahashi, Yujiro Takahashi, let's not get confused here, and Chase Owens. That's pretty much all we have to say about that. Other than it started fueling speculation that tonight LIJ would own all the gold by the end of the evening, and that we'd get the fist bump at the end. Well, that didn't quite happen. Not quite. The first match of the main card was the final Jushin Thunder Liger retirement match. Hiromu Takahashi and Ryu Lee defeated Liger and Sano, and they were actually accompanied to the ring by Yoshiaki Fujiwara, which was kind of nice. I like Kevin Kelly saying, this is the guy, you hear about the Fujiwara armbar. Well, this is the guy here who invented it. Although for him, it's probably he just calls it an armbar.
Armbar.
I thought that was pretty funny. I love the initial exchange, then and then it quickly turned into Takahashi and Lee becoming the heels here. They really started stinking the place up, doing some double team. I loved how Sano looked completely bewildered whenever he'd hit his moves. He did a missile drop kick at some point, and his face was kind of like, "Wow, I just did that," you know.
This guy.
Yeah, I pulled this off. There's a brainbuster by Liger that happens, and a Falcon Arrow by Hiromu. There's a running knee sandwich by both Lee and Takahashi as well. But the time bomb puts Liger away. Hiromu Takahashi gets the pin on Liger. It's a big deal. You know, I can't say I wasn't a little choked up, John.
Yeah, I think that's probably the takeaway here. I was surprised about how short of a match it felt. It didn't go too long, and you think for Liger's last match ever that you'd get a little bit more of a showcase. However, I mean, he's kind of had a showcase all year, and we've seen different variations of his character. We've seen great matches, great feuds. And so for them to kind of end it like this, obviously, you and I have spoken about this before. We knew that Liger was going to go out on his back. He's old school like that. It's classic storytelling in professional wrestling. I'm really interested and they did it the right way by not setting up an angle. That was the other part. Like, how is this going to play out with Ryu and things like that? We assumed that Hiromu was going to have the title coming in night 2. So, and all that kind of lined up, and I was really interested for the back end of this match, and are we going to see any type of build for the junior? But they did it right. And to your point, your concerns were all alleviated, and you called this one. They had a nice match in the ring. They didn't overexpose either Jushin or Sano up to this point, or through this match, I should say. And and we know what Hiromu Takahashi can do, and we know ultimately what Ryu will be able to do in this division moving forward into next year. It was just a feel good. It was just emotional. It was nice to see. It was a good story, and I'm really excited for New Year's Dash tomorrow morning. So that we can see the retirement speech and kind of how everything wraps up from there.
We're talking with Kelsey last night, who was on the show, and she and I just want to get your thoughts on this. She brought up a really good point where she kind of figured she thought it was a little odd to finish off to have the final matches of Liger's career to be singles matches, tag team matches. Sorry, like this. She kind of got the point of last night, having basically turning it into old homie reunion week, where you have all the old guys come in, the friends, former rivals, so on and so forth. But, she felt that Suzuki's, the feud that he had with Suzuki, the send-off that he got there was much more closer to what Liger represents, the respect that Suzuki ended up showing him. We got to see the darker side of Liger as well. She does have a point. Didn't think it was completely uninteresting. What do you feel? Do you feel like this was like the proper send off for Liger ultimately?
Yeah, I think I'm okay with it. I think to Kelsey's point, I think she makes a great point. I think she's right. I think that as far as his in-ring singles competition goes, I think that's what the story with Suzuki ultimately ended up being. It was pulling out the dark side again, and we getting Kishin back for one last show, and then cementing that feud with Suzuki, which ultimately led to Suzuki showing the respect in the ring that we love so much. I think that was the story of ending his singles career, and I think they did it well. I think that was one of the programs, that was probably one of the most underappreciated programs, not just in New Japan, but in all of wrestling over the course of 2019. This was really more of like the swan song. This is the guy that signs back with the team that drafted him at the end of his or her sports career, and then retires as, X. Right?
Sure.
That's what this weekend was. This weekend was bring in the friends, bring in the rivals, and we're just going to sit around and, drink a bunch of Japanese beer, go out there, wrestle our quick matches. But really, this is just more of a, this is polite to Liger. This is to show the respect and love for Liger. This wasn't, meant to be anything more. No programs, nothing you had to button up. This is just a nice, no pressure farewell. And I liked it because it allowed me to enjoy and remember who Jushin Thunder Liger was,
Sure.
without having to be over analytical about his matches in the ring or how these things are going to wrap up or who's he leading to. You said not too long ago when you and I were speaking about Jushin and all these different circumstances that I just mentioned a little bit before, it's nice to not have any expectations with regards to Jushin Thunder Liger and any storylines. So
Sure.
for this to be kind of a carefree weekend, yeah, I think that was probably the right move.
And as Madupt in the chat pointed out, because it's an excellent comparison, this was much better done than Baron Corbin retiring Kurt Angle at WrestleMania last year. So let's just count our blessings when they're so precious. I didn't quite see everything that went down because New Japan World crashed
2 years in a row.
It crashed last year because it seems to me I have never had an issue with World, but it crashed last year at Wrestle Kingdom too.
It was a traffic issue. So if you weren't in like an hour before it started,
right?
It took you about an hour to get in.
Okay.
Yeah, and then once you were in, you were having. I remember I had to switch from my phone to my tablet to my Roku back to my phone.
Wow.
Over the course of Wrestle Kingdom, and so it's like I could always find it and always get it back up, but it would then crash, and then you'd have to find another way of doing it.
Well, I sort of missed a little of the proceedings, but just a tiny bit of Roppongi 3K defeating Taiji. What's wrong with me? It has to be the early morning stuff. Ishimori and El Phantasmo defeating both of those to become once again IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champions. There's a great sequence early on by ELP who springboard body presses Yo, then lion salts him, then still on the same motion, topes out of the ring onto Rocky Romero to make sure that Rocky doesn't get any licks. And I thought that was really, really cool. Yo hit some really nice double Germans on the heels. Ishimori comes in as well with ELP, gets on his shoulders in an electric chair position. He hits a lung blower on Yo, holds him in position while ELP goes up top, hits a shooting star press. That was really good. Yo fights back with a destroyer. ELP hits a Styles Clash to a big reaction from the crowd, and you still gotta love that when that kind of stuff happens. ELP then tries to low blow Yo, and as he does, he injures his hand, and then Yo dives his hand into his trunks, and I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? And he pulls out a cup. They planned this. Anyway, Roppongi 3K win the titles. If I was ELP, I would have been like, the minute that Yo pulled out the cup, I would have just straight jab right to the nuts again. It's like, oh, you fucking moron. What'd you just do there? And then at the end, it's revealed that Sho had a cup as well. He even put it in his mouth. And Rocky Romero revealed that it was all his plan. The king of sneaky style. So, John, we're back to... This was a fine match. There was nothing bad about it. It was as good as you expect. I really do think that Ishimori and Phantasmo are lost as a tag team. Not because they're bad. I think that they're just too strong as singles competitors to just be wishy-washying their way around the light heavyweight tag team division. But going forward, John, what do you think? What do you think about all this? Roppongi 3K getting the titles again. Your thoughts?
It feels boring, doesn't it? Like on some level. Like, and I mean that. And I love Sho and Yo.
Sure,
there's nothing to do with them.
Yeah,
but it does feel a little like vanilla. It's just, and it's really just more of a product of not having a division, not really having a junior heavyweight division that can sustain the type of depth you need for another tag division on top of it. And that's kind of been the problem with New Japan this year is both the junior heavyweight tag division as well as the tag division. The depth just isn't there the way it has been in the past. So, showing getting this championship isn't surprising to me. They're the go-to. They're the ones that you can just put the titles back on.
That's the thing.
Yeah. Why I don't like it is because they showed that they can compete with God in the heavyweight division. Now, they're not heavyweights per se yet, but now that you have the junior heavyweights on, it's a lot like Ospreay this year. You put the junior heavyweight championship on the man, you're not going to buy him so much as a heavyweight wrestler. Same thing here. Like they teased the God versus Roppongi 3K over the back third of the year. Now, Roppongi 3K finds themselves as junior heavyweight tag team champions again, and so now we can probably let that go for a little while. Ultimately, I think this was the right decision because I really want to see Taiji or Ishimori and ELP against Hiromu Takahashi.
Yes.
That's why I'm here, so give me that.
And I'm going, just because you mentioned it, I'm going to have to slide in the obligatory, let's just do away with the weight divisions in the tag division, please. Because that's what I was thinking about earlier this week. Like when the Elite left, you had the Young Bucks that picked up and left, obviously, but then that also drained Best Friends from the division as well, which were sure they were sort of teasing a split, but nonetheless. And then Davey Boy Smith Jr. leaves, so you got Killer Elite Squad that's gone, and they haven't done anything really to replenish the tag team division since. I don't think it's going to be a priority regardless moving forward, but especially when your heavyweight tag champs are Finjuice. But that's a whole other story. Zack Sabre Jr. defeated Sonata to retain the Rev Pro British Heavyweight Championship. This was good stuff. I love the initial exchange with Sonata, showing that he can keep up with Junior's grapple work. There's the moment that I really thought was super fun was when they were doing like a knuckle lock, chin lock. They were reversing in and out of each other, which I thought was really, really good. And when Sonata reverses out of it, finally, after they do it 3 or 4 times, Junior goes to the floor and he throws a tantrum, of course. But then he sort of like calms himself down. So no, it's fine. It's fine. They do some Oklahoma rolls that leads into Sonata doing a standing moonsault that Junior catches him and then locks him into some stretches, and then it just becomes all about Zack Sabre Jr. and whatever noodly things he can do. Sonata's pescados are the best in the business. They reverse in and out, and the finish, which I loved, arrives when they start reversing in and out of European clutch attempts, but Junior is able to latch on the last one for the win. Sonata has been a point of discussion between you and I on multiple occasions. We were both very, very impressed with his 2019. I'm going to tell you straight off the bat, John, and but I'll get your thoughts. My takeaway here is surprise. I am surprised that he lost here. Here's a guy who spent most of 2019, his story in 2019 was to show that he could hang with the top tippy top guys in New Japan. He beat Kazuchika Okada once in 2019. And you're telling me he can't go over Zack Sabre Jr.? Come on.
Especially with the type of year that ZSJ is happening. The booking was interesting. I don't know. Here was my sense watching this match. This isn't Sonata 2019. This isn't a Sonata 2019 match to put him over, right? That was sure. Okada 3 times. That was a lot of the things that he was doing, and they were kind of building him and establishing him into that next tier of singles competition. This was a wrestling exhibition, and I like it and I don't. I actually like it for Sonata because it's a stress-free watch for me. To watch 2 people as technical as Zack Sabre Jr. and Sonata to go into the ring and to be able to put on this style of match. That's what I'm here for. It's a wheelhouse that both of them are confident in. Obviously,
Sure.
Zack Sabre Jr. has kind of made his name in this. Sonata, we know he's got more to offer than just this type of wrestling, but he can do this. And I think that's kind of where I found my peace with Sonata in this match. Was just it's a wrestling exhibition. He's going to go out there and he's going to have a technical match. This doesn't stop the momentum from 2019. This doesn't. This isn't who he was in 2019. He was a main event, big fight prize fighter in 2019. They didn't have a prize fight for him, so let's put you in there and let's show off your technical grace, so to speak, against one of the best in the business in Zack Sabre Jr. So for Sonata's side, I was okay with it. Zack Sabre Jr. needed this W. His 2019 was not great. Well, I mean, again, it's as good as they allowed it to be.
In terms of wins and wins and losses, no, it wasn't. It wasn't fantastic.
Yeah, good comedy, good character development for him. He went from being kind of a prick to being a cheekish whine baby or whiny infant type of character. And so I really enjoyed that side of it for him. Brought a little levity to him overall. But this is a nice notch in the belt for Zack Sabre Jr. It's a good tip of the hat to Rev Pro to get a W on Wrestle Kingdom for one of their titles. This was a non-match coming into it, a non-concern coming into it for me. This was filler for Sonata to give him a singles match because he ultimately deserved it at Wrestle Kingdom 14, and I just enjoyed it.
He also deserved a win. That's the thing.
It's true.
It's
You're totally right. You're totally right.
I really thought that they were just like, this is going to be, look, thank you, we're gonna give you the prize, and we're just gonna let Zack Sabre Jr. sink a little more. Because the thing that ultimately that bothers me the most out of Junior winning is that we're not going to get a post match where he's going to blame his loss on Boris Johnson. Right. That really really bothered me. But no, I mean the match in and about itself was fantastic. I thought kind of like last night when Moxley and Archer hit the ring, and you sort of felt that the card kicked off. This is where you felt that the card really kicked off. Speaking of Moxley, he retained the United States Championship against Juiceman Robinstones. Okay, we weren't talking yesterday, John. Well, not online, not on the air like this.
Right.
But just before we go any further, talk to me about dollar store stripper cop Juice Robinson, please.
Yeah, the Rent-A-Cop stripper costume is look. I've been partitioning. I've taken up the mantle of trying to get people to understand that there is a level of Juice Robinson that we have yet to see. There's untapped potential in this man, and for that to when that happens, everything that I've been saying up to this point about him being a B+ player is going to fall into place, and people are going to be like, "Oh my God, look at what he could have been all this time, and he wasn't, and I just wasted 3 years of my life following a fraud." So he and we had an opportunity at Wrestle Kingdom champ to be there. He had a tag team with Finjuice, and then he could have gone in against Moxley and or Archer at the time. Yeah. And say, well, here's what I'm saying.
Yes,
I was looking for a macho man, and I ended up with a macho man, and I can't sit here and take him seriously. It always goes back to this with me. When he comes out, with, and again, I respect a handlebar mustache just like anybody,
just like anybody, sure.
Right. But it's like he puts on the cop hat, but the cop hat's not enough. Then he's got to put little, cotton ball colored, designs on the top of it, and then bedazzle the lid. Like, look, I know he's the flamboyant one, and I actually like his shirt more than most because I'm a big watercolor fan. But again, just for every reason that I've said up to this point about singles champions and prestige, and it's not about not having fun, it's about building a title, and he comes out looking like that on night one, and I was I was like, he's going to get eaten alive night 2 if he comes walking out like that again.
And he did. But, and here's the thing is that, he does call himself the flamboyant one. He comes out like that. And then like 2 matches later, you have Hiromu coming out with some gorgeous ring gear to hit the ring, like where I'm like, dude, clearly Juice went and picked around and, Hiromu's leftover craft supplies. I was like, hey, buddy, can I take what you didn't use here?
Yeah, right.
Where's your hot glue gun, buddy? Kind of thing. It was good. Anyway, so look, but yes, there was. We've talked about, Juice is a sticking point. We always end up talking about him and saying that he has untapped potential, but it ain't tonight. We got to see that. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
Juice did do the smart thing, though, and he went after Moxley before Moxley actually entered the ring while he was still doing his entrance. That was smart. Chairs get involved early on, and Juice uses him nicely. He does a drop toe hold onto one, and he sits Moxley down on one and does a running cannonball, which was really cool. But then after that, there's just a lot of fighting, where Moxley eggs him on to try and hit him and hurt him. Juice whiffs a leg lariat at some point, and Moxley does the over the post figure four leg lock. Juice hits a nice superplex followed by a jackhammer. And they slug at each other. Moxley eats a pair of left hands of God. He avoids the pulp friction though and nails the Death Rider. Because it's the Death Rider in New Japan. It's not the Paradignum Shifty Poos. I mean, this. I'm okay if Juice. Honestly, I'm okay if Juice hangs around the tag team division for a while with Dave. Give him something to do. Because I've been a big proponent of keeping Juice away from the U.S. title. I think the two need to they need to just have a break from each other. I think it's a natural order of things, John.
Yeah, you go away, the heart grows fonder, right, in a sense. And so in this instance, I'll tell you, I think coming out of this weekend, Juice Robinson, they clearly showed him the investment. 2 matches, 2 title matches, and now he's and again, tag team champion is a perfect spot for him.
Sure.
I'm 100% on board with him helping to redevelop and add depth to. I know Finn Juice, and it's fun to make the jokes and things like that. But they are a fine tag team. They are a quality tag team, and for him to kind of get this opportunity against Moxley, and for Moxley to go over the way he did, it makes sense to me, right? Like it allows Juice Robinson to put a period at the end of the IWGP United States Championship for now, right? Put it away. You lost it to Moxley. You beat Moxley at the you wanted that match again. You couldn't get it done because of the elbow issue with Moxley. So they vacated it. Boom, run a little program with Lance Archer. Now we're back with Moxley. You lose to Moxley. This program is done. Now moving forward, you can focus solely on the tag team division. Great. That's what I need. Because if we're going to talk about how bad the tag team division is, well, then you need somebody that is a fan favorite that's going to draw interest. And Juice does that. Right?
Yes.
Juice he is loved in Japan. You need somebody to go up against GOD. GOD's coming off a great 2019. There's going to be a little program there as they build the rest of the division. I think these are smart decisions to get us back and reinvested in the tag team side. So overall for the weekend, this is a good weekend for Juice. It's just, when it comes to this, and again, it's my fault. When it comes to this United States Championship, it's a pretty belt. It's nice when you have it on somebody like Moxley. We just need a couple wins out of it. We just need somebody to hold this thing, get 4 title defenses. I'm not looking for anything crazy here. Just get 4 defenses on it, reestablish it, and then insert Juice back in another day, once we kind of know what we want to do with this title.
But then the story. Mox is celebrating in the ring, and a very familiar theme song kicks in, and Minoru Suzuki walks out. He's in his track gear. He's got his hands in his pockets. He sort of saunters down the ramp. And then he starts taking his track gear off, and you realize he's in his full gear. He's coming out to kick someone's ass. And I'm going to tell you, John, we talk a lot about NXT. I've talked about it before. And so I got goddamn chills when Rhea Ripley came to the ring and stared down Shayna Baszler on one of the final NXTs of the WWE Network era. I got the same kind of heebie-jeebies when that happened tonight when Minoru got into the ring and started staring down. I marked out. I literally marked out. That this is Gato listening to what at least the North American fans have been asking for. This is fantastic stuff. Minoru beats the shit out of Moxley and even gets the gotch pile driver on him. And I loved how Moxley, going back after when everything was done, he was like shaking the cobwebs out of his eyes and was like, what the fuck just happened? Thoughts on Minoru Suzuki holding a U.S. title?
Yes, all day. Giving it all day long, giving it every day of the week, give it every month of the year. This is what I want. I want Suzuki versus Moxley. I like that it's going to be for the U.S. title. This is what I've been waiting for out of the booking of the United States Championship is something of this caliber. Mm-hmm. That's number one. Number two, Suzuki, he's coming to the States a little bit more. He did Warrior Wrestling. Mm-hmm. He's on this freelance deal. Like, this isn't the worst decision making. If it's something where they're talking about Suzuki not being happy and wanting to leave Japan and wanting to go, get away from Gato for a while because of all the backstage nonsense that allegedly is happening, well, give him the U.S. title, let him go away.
Sure.
Let him bring that bad boy over here and be, where we talk a lot about like the ambassadorship of winning the British Heavyweight Championship and utilize. Well, we saw what Suzuki was able to do with that over in the UK. Give him the U.S. title and let him come over to the States and be the ambassador over here. We love Murder Grandpa over here.
We absolutely do. And I've read reports that he loved the coming over and wrestling for Warrior Wrestling. Like, mm-hmm. He really, really loved it. So there's a tour, the first tour of New Japan of America that's coming up. Why not do that? Do you think that this title situation might be settled up as soon as New Year's Dash?
I hope not. Yeah, just for the title's sake. You need a little. We need some victory.
But then again, if I'm AEW, I don't want to share Jon Moxley too much, as Moxley is. He's being lined up for a big spot on the next pay-per-view in February. I don't necessarily want him going all over the place and risking another staph infection or something like that,
Yeah, true.
I kind of sure, go do Wrestle Kingdom, get your paycheck, John, but then come back, kind of thing, because we need you. Because remember last time he was supposed to have that big match with Omega. And then he goes and he does his New Japan dates, and he gets an infection, and that gets called off. Pretty sure AEW might have, maybe not pretty sure, but I would understand if AEW had a few reservations regarding this, which is why I was surprised that Moxley won and retained the title.
Yeah, I was a little fearful that I was going to be waking up to mentions of Juice's Champ, and that would have been a disappointment. I would have eaten my hat. I'm a good sport like that. But nevertheless,
it's a lovely
it didn't happen, so I don't have to.
Yeah, exactly, and it would have been a shame because it's a lovely hat.
Thank you. Yeah, but we, I think you're right. I think when I first think about this, I think just New Japan strictly, and what's best for the title and what makes sense from a booking decision. Because you can get a good program out of these two for a little while. But you're right. AEW is lining Moxley up to be the next challenger / champion of AEW, number one contender. So to put him in a position to have the AEW championship as well as the US. If I was AEW and that was the decision I was making, I probably wanted my focus solely to be on him with their promotion and not splitting, hedging their bet against Japan. So even with a working relationship, which I'm sure we'll probably talk about at some point, yeah, I think I ultimately agree. I think Moxley's probably got to work away from this U.S. title at some point, because the focus needs to be him and only him in AEW, moving forward. If he's lined up to take on Jericho at Revolution,
which is a terrible name for a pay-per-view.
it's not good. No.
Hiroki Goto defeated Kenta to become never openweight champion for the 73rd time, I believe.
Yes.
But I mean, Goto is the never openweight guy.
Yep.
I mean, if there's anyone who's ever been associated to that title, it's him. It's him. I really liked this match. I thought that this was your go-to, and it's not a pun with Goto. It was your go-to a strong style match of the evening. They really lay into each other. It was something fierce. Goto at some point, he hits a knockout blow on Kenta, which just rocks him completely with some great stuff. Goto stays in control for a good portion of the match until a top rope clothesline from Kenta takes him down. Goto hits a surprise Ushigoroshi. If there is such a thing, it happened tonight. An Ushigoroshi out of nowhere. Kenta tries to end the match with a PK, but it can't get him. It can't keep Goto down. Goto even avoids a GTS. Man, and they start just laying into each other. Some open strikes. It is just a brutal. And the GTR gets the job done. My rundown doesn't quite do it justice, but they really ran into each other hard. I don't want to talk too much about Kenta, because we're going to have another opportunity to do that in a short while. But I'm going to tell you, what I like the most here in his match, I mean, okay, I'm going to back up a bit. I'm trying to say too many things at once. This is not... Kenta's older. His body has been through a lot of stuff. It's not the same guy that we've known 7, 8, maybe a decade ago, where he was just tearing it up everywhere and everyone was... Where he was acquiring his legendary status. It's not the same guy. He's adapted his wrestling style through his heel persona in New Japan to work a different pace, but work a pace that is very, very reminiscent of what he's able to do. He can't do everything that he used to do because he just the injuries at some point, dude. And they were well storied in WWE. So I really liked how it seems to me that I really liked tonight the showcase that he put on, how he was able to transition into something new yet still successful within his limitations. And I hate saying limitations, but you know what I mean. Otherwise, as far as Goto goes, well, back with the never openweight title, but he had a great year, John. I'm kind of glad about this result.
Yeah, I thought this for both of them. To me, this was the embodiment of what a New Japan heavyweight match used to be, right? Before Okada, Tanahashi played into this a little bit, but you kind of go back to like the Nakanishis of the world and the Chono Masahiro, you know what I mean? Like, and you think about the strong style of Japanese wrestling. This match was the embodiment of that, right? This is the best Kenta's ever looked. Like, Make no mistake about it. Like, this dude, he really has a comfortability. He had a little bit of rust when he first came back, trying to get away from the styles that he was learning. And it took him a little while. It took him that 6 months. It took him the G1. It took him to win this title and to do some things with Ishii to kind of get back to where he was. And if this is the Kenta we're going to have, and this is the type of style we're going to have from Kenta moving forward, this is great news for New Japan fans, because they can start looking at him as being a New Japan guy instead of being a Noah guy, a WWE, whatever, right? Hiroki Goto, he plays that role so well. Kind of he's the liaison between the past of Japanese wrestling and what the future is going to be, right? And
Mm-hmm.
he's like the guy that's going to allow you to, as a fan, not so much as a wrestler, but he's the guy that as a fan he's going to uh, you're going to check out because you like Okada and you like that Jericho's here and you like that John Moxley's making a thing. But he's the one that's going to make you stay,
Yeah.
right? When you watch Goto matches, it's like, oh, what is this? And then you become a Goto fan. I've been through this with many New Japan people, including myself, where everybody seems to like Hiroki Goto. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
some people think he's a little boring, but everybody seems to like him. And why? And it's because he represents something that's traditional but new to wrestling fans that haven't watched Japanese wrestling before. So you kind of gravitate and clench your claws into him a little bit, and he kind of guides you through, just the historical expectations of what Japanese wrestling was through the way that he wrestles, in my opinion. And I think
And
that's why a lot of people gravitate to him.
and it's an excellent point considering that they leaned in pretty seriously into his role at the LA Dojo
Yeah.
as a trainer. They really leaned into that this year, which added um, a nice flavor to him moving forward, and I think
Hmm.
that helped propel him. Help propelled him in the G1 as well, because he had a fantastic G1, especially when you consider the one he had in 2018. So yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good with the result. The never wait title feels at home when he has it. So good for him. Jay White,
Yeah.
though, are we going to say good for him? Because he defeated Kota Ibushi. Jesus Christ.
I mean, is this the JY we're getting for 2020? Because this would be fantastic.
Look, you really have two trains of thought here, right? There's really this is where you see that there truly are two types of New Japan fans. Because there are New Japan fans who embrace Jay White and welcome the type of result that we got this evening. Whereas you'll have others who are going to be like, "What is this crap? I did not care to see all this overbooking and all these shenanigans. This Gato garbage has to stop. This is not what New Japan is." Look, for the past 6 to 8 months now, I've been clamoring that Jay White is the best heel in the business, and I still believe it. I still absolutely believe it because this is exactly what Jay White needs to. This was a perfect Jay White weekend because last night, without necessarily realizing it, he remade Naito as a contender last night. He made sure that everyone was on his side and created just that little bit of story from which tonight Naito had to fight back from the knee stuff, right? But we'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
Tonight, everyone was he took down another fan favorite. Another guy that everyone absolutely loves. Another guy where people keep saying it's his time, it's his moment. It's Ibushi's time to get a title, to shine. He needs this win tonight, but no. No. Jay White, the ultimate spoiler, comes out with a sneaky, shitty win. But honestly, John, I think moving forward, Kota Ibushi is going to benefit from this, and all New Japan fans are going to benefit as well.
Yeah, this Ibushi story the last 2 days. And look, I know people love Ibushi. And I know that people really wanted him to either be the champion or to beat Okada or whatever, right? Because if he would have beaten Okada, at least would have been a champion for a day. At least get the resume. Um, but Ibushi, since he's been back, he's really had no real challenge. He always kind of felt like the golden child. He's the heir apparent. Him finally signing with New Japan. Now they're going to push him to the moon. Like in Gato allowed us to believe that. And so coming into it, because I even said on Twitter earlier Friday, which was, this is what I think is going to happen. This is probably what's going to happen. This is what I'd like to, or whatever, right? And Ibushi wasn't in my plans because it's like I can't really make a case for Ibushi other than he's just a fan favorite. It's just, I mean, he's been pushed and he's been protected and all these different things. He won the G1, you know, but there's just something for him to kind of lose night one and then to lose this way to Jay White. I just think it puts him in a better position moving into 2020 to kind of explore his character a little bit more.
This kind of what I've started referring to him as this fugue state Ibushi that we saw last night. He brought it back again tonight, where he gets this glazed look, and you're like, okay, he is no longer in control of his actions. If they want to explore that with him and make that a focus on in 2020, I kind of dig it. I think it's a good departure from what we know. It's an interesting development because he didn't have that great a 2019 over. I mean, not that great. He was IC champion. I mean, it's not as if made it to the finals of won the G1 and so on. I mean, it's not a terrible year. But, since people expected so much from him, and he tweeted out last night, that he was disappointed in himself and so on and so forth. So if these frustrations are translating into this persona where he suddenly becomes invincible, it completely works. And I mean, White sold that to perfection tonight when he did it in one of New Japan's greatest tropes, where the strong style strikes, where both guys stand in front of each other and elbow each other, and Ibushi's just standing there, and White gives him an elbow, Ibushi strikes back, and White just drops, and then he staggers back to his feet, and he tries to do it again. They have another exchange. Boom, boom. He's back down again. That was fantastic. When Gedo comes in, while there's a ref bump, he has a chair. He strikes Ibushi in the back. Ibushi completely no-sells it. But and he heart punches Gedo out of the ring. He gives him a heart punch. It was so good. And White throughout it all was fantastic. He tries to set White up for a Bomaye, I guess, but White just dead weights him. He just lets himself fall back like he does, and he's got this huge grin on his face, and you're like, you little bastard, but it's so good. Anyway, there's the Gedo runs in with the Nux. He brass knuckles. He eventually gets him. There's a 1916 by Bullet Club member Jay White on Ibushi as well, but he hits the Blade Runner for the win, and then another Blade Runner after the match. I mean, I think there's a lot of really interesting storyline possibilities to come out of this. I really, really do. Yeah,
there's a lot of paths, for sure. I think the biggest one for me is one. So to your point about Ibushi, because I think you did a really well done. I think you did a nice job. Let's put it that way. Of breaking that down. It's like in Kill Bill when you hear the siren, going off in his head. Mm-hmm. I think that's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm attributing to a lot of Ibushi right now. Jay White, though, it's coming out of this weekend. So did you see the presser post-match after night one?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so I would recommend anybody going back and watching that, because the intensity and the fire in which this dude tries to sell the fact that he is the most evil person on the planet, he nails in that presser. What 2020 potentially could be we think his heel work is good now. What it could be through 2020, if what I saw last night or this morning or this afternoon, I don't even know how that works. But if I could, if that is a scene of things to come moving into 2020, like, we think he's the greatest now at being a heel. Like, he's got to like a there's the only way you can say it is evil. Like this
Mm-hmm.
just malcontent type of personality that's going to come out on top of all the heelish stuff, on top of all the Gato-istic match layouts, and I'm here for it. I want the most annoying manager in the world to be with the most annoying heel in the world. And I want that heel to have all the bravado and confidence in the world that he can take down and he will take down. And there's a master plan that you guys don't even know about. And what you do know is only one part of what's actually going to happen. And if that's if that's the story they're going to run with, Jay White moving into 2020, I'm 100% here for it. The craziest thing about Jay White since he's taken over Bullet Club and since everything that kind of happened and transpired over the last 2 years is he's elevated himself above. He's been able to join a faction in Chaos, break that down, become the leader of Bullet Club, and then transcend his faction almost instantly, and then maintain that level of expectation
Mm-hmm.
moving through 2019 and now what ultimately will be 2020 again. Bullet Club is fine, but
Are they?
Jay White, yeah. Now we'll get to it, but yes, I think they are. But Jay White, he might as well not even be Bullet Club. He is just that much, he's just that much higher than the rest of them. A lot
Yeah.
like Okada, a lot like Naito,
Sure.
a lot like Suzuki. So he's establishing himself. But my goodness, like this dude is just on a different plane right now with how he speaks on the mic, how he wrestles in the ring, and more importantly, how he sells himself in the ring during these matches. It's crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy how good he is.
Chris Jericho, AEW World Champion, youngest AEW World Heavyweight Champion of all time, defeated Hiroshi Tanahashi by submission.
Yes.
And this felt like a big match, and it was portrayed as a big match, and I bought it as a big match. This was a good time. The usual Tanahashi chants at first were met with Jericho immediately giving the audience the double birds, which is fantastic. There's some good in-ring action to begin with. I like how Tanahashi is having none of Chris Jericho's bullshit, and he even starts mocking Chris Jericho, doing a callback to the "Come on, baby" pose in the ring. I thought that was great. Jericho hits his springboard missile drop kick to keep Tanahashi on the floor. They fight into the commentary section. Jericho tells Gino Gambino to shut his mouth, fat ass, which I thought was great. Jericho DDTs Tana on the commentary table. Back in the ring, he tries to hit the high fly flow, but it fails because Tanahashi was playing possum, and they immediately cut after the move fails to a close-up of Tanahashi, who has the biggest grin on his face. He is so satisfied with what he did, and I like this. I liked throughout the whole match how Tanahashi was. He had a little edge to him. He wasn't, like I said. He. The idea here is that Tanahashi usually respects his opponents, but you could tell tonight he had no time for Jericho and his nonsense. He was ready to go for it. There's a ref bump where Jericho low blows Tanahashi and starts whipping him with his weight belt, but then Tanahashi low blows him. So I thought that was cool. There's a high fly flow to Jericho off the top rope to the floor. Tanahashi just messes up Jericho's leg with dragon screw after dragon screw after dragon screw. The Lion Salt can't put Tanahashi away. Judas Effect is blocked and reversed into a straight jacket German suplex with bridge by Tanahashi. We get an attempt at the Lion Tamer that Tanahashi fights out of. A high fly flow into a code breaker, which was real cool. And Tanahashi hits a code breaker of his own. But Jericho gets the Lion Tamer locked in again. And boy, does he cinch it like he hasn't cinched it in a long time. Tanahashi has no choice to tap. There is no AEW World Heavyweight Championship shot for Tanahashi. The dream is over, John. But this was a fun match.
It was fun, and more importantly, Tanahashi lost the right way. Going into this, if Jericho was going to win, I was really scared that Tanahashi might lose to the Judas Effect, because as much as I like the Judas Effect when it's done really, really well, it's not an impactful move for me, and I just have so much reverence for Tanahashi that.
I don't get the Judas Effect, and there's some point during the match Jericho hit a back elbow, and I'm like, why is that not the Judas Effect? I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
And then he ducked the actual Judas Effect.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I get why he has it, but it is one of those things where I'm glad it wasn't utilized the way we've come to see it used in AEW here. Tanahashi losing to a back elbow strike just doesn't feel right.
No.
But I love the line tamer. Right? I love the finish. I love the cinching in of it. Like Jericho, whether it's him playing to the crowd or him working with somebody in the ring, especially someone to the level and knowledge of Tanahashi, he just knows the proper story to tell. And you're not just going to throw on this weak lion tamer, to pull out the W. You're going to really have to. It only makes sense if you really crank this thing in.
He was sitting on his neck. That's how far deep in it was. It was cool. No, it wasn't. And I mean, you couldn't blame Tanahashi for tapping on that one.
No. Which makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Is the AEW dream done, John? Will New Japan and AEW ever work together?
Oh man, I gotta tell you, and I got thoughts on this, and we can talk about this if you'd like. Although
yeah. Well, we can talk about it for a couple of minutes, sure.
Yeah. So I am thrilled with this outcome. I don't think that Tanahashi should get an AEW championship. I think just because AEW has stuff coming up, and New Japan has stuff coming up. I do love the idea of a partnership. I think it's going to happen. I think this is all teaser stuff for fans to get all crazy about. When we were coming into night 2, and then the reality that Moxley was going to be defending the a New Japan championship, and that Tanahashi had an opportunity at the AEW Heavyweight Championship, and people were like, "Well, is this going to be the start of something?" That's not the story that it's a story of Wrestle Kingdom weekend, but it certainly shouldn't have been the story. The story, right? It shouldn't have been the number one bullet point of Wrestle Kingdom. So, but like, depending on where you live and depending on who you talk to and their fandoms, like that seemed to be the thing. Like, and that AEW New Japan was going to overshadow everything that New Japan did this year. Like, the Elite just left last Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah.
New Japan has spent the entire year building new stars outside of the tag team divisions. They've, they have the most crowded main event scene with incredible performers that they were able to showcase, over the last 2 days. They have the return of Hiromu Takahashi and the match that he had with Will Ospreay the night before. Jeez. And then you have, all these different little nuanced things that are happening with all their other championships and their roster as a whole. And this really was a declaration from New Japan Pro Wrestling to say that we've finally reset, right? Yeah. We have finally filled the gaps that the Elite have left, and for the ending moment, or for the storyline coming out of Wrestle Kingdom to be anything other than that, or for it to be that there's a partnership with AEW, it would have just thrown this whole year into question for me. Right. It would have everything that New Japan would have done. So I'm really happy that they teased it. I would love for it to happen at Dash. I would love for it to happen later in the year where we see that partnership come together. But being reserved, if it's something that is going to happen and they're excited about this partnership because of everything that's happened in the wrestling world over the course of the last year, great. I'm excited for them. To have that being the overarching storyline at Wrestle Kingdom, I thought would have been a mistake. They are showing great discipline and great reserve by teasing it, but not overexposing that there's a partnership this weekend. I think they were really smart about that. I'm really happy that was ultimately what happened. As a fan, hopefully we see it, and we see it soon. I'm just glad that it didn't happen tonight.
Yeah, no, I agree, and because it would have overshadowed a lot of the great stuff that happened tonight as well. Maybe more here in North America than in Japan, because here that's pretty much what everyone would be talking about. But I don't want to say that it's inevitable, but I think it's a good fit for them to work as a partnership. The only thing that I just can't get out of my mind, that I don't know how it equates if there is a partnership, is New Japan of America. How does that fit in if they're going to be running dates during, with a partnership with AEW? They're essentially going to be working the same market. Like, that's one thing that doesn't quite connect to me. I feel I feel I'd be much more confident about the prospect of these two companies working together if there wasn't this entity that was announced last fall, where they're like, yeah, we're going to be running dates in the United States. That's not a problem. Like, I don't know how. It feels like they're encroaching on each other. If AEW was still in Japan, if New Japan was still in Japan and looking to run a few dates and looking for an American partner to do so, and they don't want to run them with with Ring of Honor anymore because Ring of Honor is Ring of Honor, then it'd make perfect sense for them to cozy up to AEW and do it. I don't know. To me, that's still one element that I don't quite understand how it fits into the business aspect of it, because as a fan, as someone who's into wanting to see the best possible matches all the time, it makes sense to have some sort of exchange partnership with AEW where talent can move around, and we can have we could have Hiromu versus Jungle Boy kind of thing. That'd be neat. That kind of or Sammy Guevara and Hiromu would be fantastic.
Yep.
Like I said, it's just the New Japan of America thing that I'm having difficulty wrapping
Just to
my
throw
head
a
around.
little gas on the fire here.
Sure.
Outside of Double or Nothing, it's interesting that AEW has yet to make it to the West Coast. Now, I know why they're coming across the state the way they do. It's just a fun way to think about it, of like, are they showing a little bit of respect towards NJOA by not heading to the West Coast as fast as possible to allow them the opportunity to continue to build what they're building over there? It's a reach, but again, like, in the world of always developing relationships, who knows? Maybe that's half the reason that they didn't go to the West Coast yet, is because they're allowing New Japan to kind of do what they need to do in the California market right now.
Makes sense. That's an interesting thought. Here's another interesting thought. Tetsuya Naito becoming the first IWGP Heavyweight and Intercontinental Champion by pinning Kazuchika Okada 1-2-3 fair and square inside a cerulean blue ring. Just to start this one off, Kazuchika Okada main evented his 7th Wrestle Kingdom tonight. Do you know how old Kazuchika Okada is, John? He's 32 goddamn years old.
Yep.
7th main event. You can argue he's not even at his peak yet. And with the result tonight, it turns out that Okada and Naito are at 5-5 each. 5 wins, 5 losses. Just interesting. I liked how this match started, where you thought it would turn quickly, that it would be an Okada match, but he got the pace cooking really early on, breaking from his usual pace. He hits a DDT, a slingshot senton, but Naito comes back with his combination cabron very, very early on as well. He hits the draping neckbreaker off the apron to the floor. Okada does a nice roll through at some point, picking up Naito for that package neck breaker he does. Naito then gets wrist control after avoiding a Rainmaker and starts driving elbows square into Naito's neck. He hits a big spine buster as well and a top rope Rana. No, not the poison Rana. He did a Rana before that. Okada drop kicks Naito off the top rope. He was on the corner actually, and Naito falls to the floor. And then Okada starts to work the knee. He drives Naito's knee directly through the commentary table in a fantastic turning point in the story of this match. This is where everything changed, where you kind of felt Okada was desperate and he started using everything at his disposal to put Naito away. And of course, this worked into what Jay White was doing the night before, weakening Naito's knee. So I really thought that this was really interesting. Naito eventually he crawls into the ring just before beating the 20 count by a hair, and immediately Okada goes up to the top rope, waits till Naito hobbles up back to a standing position, and Okada does a wonderful top rope John Woo drop kick. It was fantastic. Naito eventually reverses his fortune with the Tornado DDT, a Gloria, and then he hits that nut bar Poison Rana from the top rope, where the initial angle of the landing looked like Okada's head had just rolled off his body, but the replay after showed that it looked good. It just didn't look as bad as it did. So that sort of reassured me. Naito kicks out of a spinning tombstone Rainmaker combo, and Okada just can't believe it. So he goes back to the knee, but Naito gets back in control, goes for the top rope for the Redemption Stardust Press, Redemption from 2 years ago, and it connects perfectly, but Okada kicks out of it. A Destino puts him away. It was just a wonderful moment, a beautiful moment. The crowd was into it. They even turned on Okada at some point, John, in this match, because they were fed up of Okada going after the knee all the time.
Yeah. I mean, this is 2 years in the making. This is 7 years in the making. This is ultimately what we wanted.
The audience was completely into this, like completely into the story. And you could tell that this is what they wanted. They wanted the Naito moment. They wanted Naito to finally get the shine that he deserved, because Okada was being a dick. And I thought this was perfectly told throughout the story of the match here. Well, at least from the moment that Okada drove his knee into the table, Okada was just being a jerk. He wasn't necessarily the pure champion that we're used to. No. He was being underhanded and sneaky, didn't quite care for it, and Naito was just fighting from underneath throughout the entire match. This was perfectly done. But then as Naito is celebrating and starts the LIJ roll call, Kenta runs in, John, and he plasters Naito, beats him up, completely ruins the moment. Kevin Kelly has an aneurysm on commentary. Kenta, man.
It's not just... I was taken aback. I still kind of am about Kenta coming out. Because if we're going to get Kenta from Noah, like if that's like that, and that's where I think where they're headed with this, obviously, clearly, but like it's like the perfect first opponent for Naito.
Sure.
Like it's just like, and as like I was terribly surprised when he first came out and destroyed Naito. Like, well, when he came out and attacked Naito, but then I'm thinking about it and marinating on it since the time that it ended till now. It's just like there's just nobody better. You know, we thought like, oh, the consolation match was going to be one of those things, and this was going to happen, and that was going to. Well, no. Like Jay White's going to do his own thing. Ibushi's kind of got this character development thing he's working on, but at the end of the day, um, it's Kenta. It's a perfect decision. Like it's just completely out of the blue for me. It's a total shock. Just it just feels right. If that makes sense.
And here, you know, they brought in Kenta for a reason. They didn't bring him in to hang around the open weight title. They didn't.
No.
Like you said, I think you know what they wanted was Noah era Kenta. That's what WWE wanted. They didn't get him. But I think New Japan is in a better position to make it happen. And I think Kenta has grown just out of his, like I said earlier, just through what he did in his match with Goto tonight. I think he's grown enough to realize that he's not Noah Kenta as an in-ring athlete anymore. Like he can't do the same things anymore. But he can still transcend that. Because he is, nonetheless, a Japanese wrestling legend. Mm-hmm. And I know, again, that this is where you see the two types of New Japan fans. The purists, I guess, on one hand, and the others. And I understand how people are really, really pissed off at it. But he needed heat. He needed this kind of heat. And you needed someone... He needed to do something egregious like this to get to get people invested in not wanting him to win, because the crowd went nuts. Are you kidding me? Finally, the thousands and thousands of LIJ fans that were waiting for Naito to win, waiting for his moment, the same fans who filed out of the arena when Jay White beat him for the IC title this year, were just stood up and left, we're finally getting their moment, and then it's ruined again by another guy. This was absolutely what needed to happen, and I'm really, really excited to see where they go forward with this, because you're right, it's the perfect opponent.
Yeah.
Naito needed. You can't go back to Jay White right off the bat. You just can't. It's just something that can't happen straight off the bat.
Right.
And on the tippy top levels of the main event scene in New Japan, we saw it. It was transparent when they booked these four guys into the double gold dash to double gold thing, whatever. There's only one real heel in there. Like there's only one real main event heel, and you can't always be going back to Jay White to solidify your top baby faces either. They have to build. They being New Japan, they have to build more heels on that top level. Well, they just strapped a rocket right now to Kenta to put him up there. I think it was a fantastic move.
Yeah, I think it was smart. And I like the way that they kind of killed Naito's moment, because it's kind of like off-brand for Naito to have that moment, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, clearly he had the moment, you know what I mean? But, like, it's not like the lasting impression of him with both titles and the mic in his hand and the lights go out. No. It's like, nope, we're going to send somebody else. A lot like they did with, Taichi earlier this year. It fits Naito's character a little bit more for him to always, his nonchalantness mixed with constantly getting beat up by somebody. It fits very, very well. So I was happy with it. I'm glad they finally committed to the storyline, putting a period at the end of this sentence and finishing this trek through Naito's journey. He's on top. He's the champ. It couldn't have happened a better way. We didn't know if we were going to get it or not. There were twists and turns over the course of this entire season, thinking redemption, We caught it 2 years ago. Saturday night, New Japan Pro Wrestling. On a Saturday, Naito becomes champ. They doubled down and gave him champ. It's crazy. It's
Yep.
just good, fun storytelling through the course of this entire year. So I'm
I
a huge fan about it.
absolutely. I loved Wrestle Kingdom this year. I thought night 2. I think that the 2 nights experiment is interesting. I would definitely say that I preferred night 2 to night 1 because night 1 had too many, like I was telling Kelsey last night when we were talking about, too many preliminary matches that felt like touring 8-man tags, you know?
Sure.
And that bugged me because there clearly there were 2 matches there that were meant to hype Kenta versus Goto and Zack Sabre Jr. and Sonata. But that's what they do usually on tour, not the night of their big event. I thought they were, and I understand. I know, people then go to Twitter and they say, yeah, but Warren, there's always filler matches. There's always filler matches. Yes, I've watched New Japan before. I know how it works. But we had the filler matches with the young lions. We had those. We had the Tenkozi and we had the filler matches.
Right. We had a pre-show.
And there were 4 guys, easily 4 guys, that had great years that did not get singles matches. And these are just off the top of my head there. Evil, Ishii, and then I'm saying off the top of my head and I can't remember who the Suzuki, and there's one more missing. Evil, Sonata. No, not Sonata. Evil, Ishii, Suzuki, and Shingo. 4 guys who had really strong years, who developed as credible single stars, and you can even make a case for Taichi too. Sure. Why weren't these guys given mini feuds, lower mid card feuds, just singles matches instead of these throwaway 8-mans, which really kind of didn't do anything to me. That's the only thing that really bugged me about the 2 nights. Otherwise, I thought this was fun. Thought it was fun on a community level as well. Everyone was really into it. I thought everyone was super excited about it. I thought it was really interesting. I definitely have a preference for night 2. Kind of wonder, I kind of figure, if New Japan tried it out and it worked for them, I think WWE should try something like that with the WrestleMania at some point.
Yeah.
Thoughts on Wrestle Kingdom, John?
I thought it was strong. Both nights. It's hard to go back to back. It's hard to go overnight back to back. So God bless you, Warren, for doing so. And then to recap both after, geez. But yeah, I'll tell you that I feel like they succeeded across every level. Both night 1, night 2. Haramu's coming back. Ospreay's performance. Everything they were able to do with building the characters of their main event people, as well as establishing new stars like Juice Robinson and Finn Juice. So across the board, I'm thrilled with it. It's nice to see Goto back in the position that he's in. It's nice to see Kenta moving on to a more elevated position on the card. So they've accomplished so much, and they've done it without having to rely. But really, coming out of this, it's New Japan Pro Wrestling. It's the main event scene. It's the single stars that they have, and they were able to show over the course of 2 nights how well they can put on wrestling shows, both in ring as well as from match to match. So I was really happy about it.
I was happy too. We're happy people, and we like being happy. This was great stuff. When pro wrestling is good, John, God, it is amazing.
So good.
It is really, really good. So we're going to wrap this one up. And before we do, I want to thank you, John, for hanging out with me early in the morning like this for the live recording. I really appreciate it. Let the people know what you got coming up, John.
Well, first and foremost, I appreciate you for bringing me on. It's not every day I get to talk to Mr. Warren Hayes, so I'm happy anytime you invite me on the Mr. Warren Hayes show. And you can find me on no particular angle. Every Wednesday is one half of the hashtag Queen and Pup Connection, We this week we are doing a retrospective on Saki Kashima and Natsu Samir and their dynamic over the course of 2019, and then what has transpired since the new year with Saki Kashima joining Oedo Tai. So a lot of things happening on the Stardom side, #Watch Stardom, on no particular angle, as well as you can follow me on Twitter at Big Paws on a Pup, as well as at NPA Podcast.
And be sure to subscribe and follow and listen. John is a wealth of information and a cool guy at that. And as usual, you can follow me on Twitter at MrWarrenHayes, and here as well on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. I will be back on Wednesday for the Fightful Wednesday Night Wars podcast. Otherwise, back here on Thursday for the next edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Thank you again, John, for joining us. Thank you, everyone, for coming out and watching us live and listening to us live, doing whatever you need to do live. And I'll see you next time.